We have some great teachers, but the district has struggled in recent years. Fewer students, more failing schools, a dysfunctional school board, and increasingly low employee morale. We're losing hundreds of teachers a year and failing too many of our kids. What is your plan to turn that around? We'll start with you, Councilman.
Well, it is the number one question in the county. We have to have a great school system if we're going to grow correctly. We have to have a school system that lets our children take advantage of the opportunities of the new Nashville. And it's going to require more money. So we're going to need more revenue sources and to get more money to the school system. And ultimately the solution is that more than half of Metro's new money needs to come to schools. And then schools need to spend more than half of its money on educator pay. Right now, only 27% of the school budget is going to classroom teacher pay. That's not enough. That has to be elevated over time. And all schools really need to get better the same way. Great principal that supports great teachers, that retains them and gets parental involvement. And that's what the mayor needs to concentrate on in bringing nonprofits together and convening and collaborating in going forward.
Mayor Brown.
So that question is right on the mark. That not enough kids are successfully graduating from Nashville Public Schools. But let me say this first. There are a lot of great kids finishing school, going on to post-secondary education and great careers. And I don't want the conversation about Metro Nashville Public Schools ever to diminish their successes. This year, 11 of the salutatorians and valedictorians in our system did not speak English when they started. So that's a real success for our community, that we are making progress in that regard. We also, on the other side, have about a 27% of the third graders are reading at grade level. And that is a tragedy for our city. That's why I've done something unprecedented, and I've been criticized for it. I have intervened with the board, and I am making a demand on them that they change the way they do business. They need to be more responsible with the money. They need to address priority schools, and they need to fix teacher pay. I'm committed to doing all of those, because if we do that, we can change that literacy rate. We can get more kids through the system successfully, and Nashville will be a fairer, stronger place in the future.
Representative Clements.
Well, my children are in Metro Public School, and I have been in schools across this entire county, and there are amazing things happening in each and every school thanks to committed teachers who are doing amazing things with too little pay and too few resources. Now, it's time for Metro government and the mayor's office to stop pointing fingers and blaming everyone else. It's time for us to start taking responsibility and showing some leadership and take ownership of what's happening in our community. Our children are facing adverse childhood experiences in our community that's having a direct impact on their performance in our schools. Metro government should take responsibility for that. Metro government should start working with the school board, forming a stronger partnership to execute a shared vision. My vision for Metro schools is to accelerate the rate of improvement across our school system.
Dr. Swain.
Well, I'm a product of public schools, and many of you know my story. I was a high school dropout, married at 16. By the time I was 21, I had 3 small children. I got a high school equivalency, went to a community college, and got the first of 5 degrees. And so I know what it's like to be poor and to struggle. And as an educator, I care about the public schools, and I want to be involved with holding the school board accountable. They get almost $1 billion a year. In fact, it can be rounded to $1 billion, and yet we're not getting the kind of results that we deserve. And we always hear every election year about more money for teachers' pay. They get the money, they don't give it to the teachers, the bus drivers, or the cafeteria workers. We need transparency, we need accountability, and as mayor, I'm going to make sure that they do right by everyone.
Thank you.
Another big problem facing Nashville's next mayor is juvenile crime. Kids are committing more serious crimes and at a younger age. We've seen children as young as 12 accused of carjacking and even homicide. Why is this happening, and how do we stop it? Representative Clements.
Thank you. Youth violence is a symptom of many other underlying challenges facing a large part of our community. Issues like poverty, joblessness, housing instability, a lack of access to educational opportunity, and exposure to trauma and violence in neighborhoods. As mayor, I would take the Nashville Youth Violence Summit report that was put together thanks to the great work of Judge Sheila Calloway, David Williams, and many others, and use the 6 recommendations set forth in that plan. It provided a perfect blueprint for how we can move forward as a city. But I would start with increasing access to educational opportunities because education would be my priority. Additionally, we can improve and better facilitate the after-school programs in our community. Our faith-based community, our nonprofits are doing incredible work, and we need to better transition our students from schools to these after-school programs and keep them in a positive, safe environment between 3 and 7 p.m.
Dr. Swain?
I think that we need to work with families and also try to inculcate values in our young people. I think that the restorative justice that we hear so much about is political correctness, and we're not telling our young people what they need to hear. And in the juvenile system, they're being turned out. They commit serious crimes. I've spoken with law enforcement, with the sheriff. Many young people that have committed serious crimes are turned out. They're back home before the police officer fills out the report. That's wrong, and it's unacceptable. And some of our judges are just too liberal when it comes to holding young people accountable. As mayor, I would work with teachers, I'd work with parents, I'd work with law enforcement, and I would work with young people. And young people need opportunities. Some of them don't belong in school. They need vocational opportunities. We need opportunities for all. I will work with a new solution.
Thank you. Councilman Cooper?
Well, nobody is doing better work than Judge Sheila Calloway. But when youth come to Judge Calloway, it's too late. We need to get there first, and that's going to require after-school programs, apprenticeships, and support for nonprofits that are doing great work in this space. And how do you support nonprofits? You make it easier for them to get grant money. You make it the requirements of participating with schools and with metro government, you make that easier. You go ahead and make youth the focus because ultimately there's no higher payback. Every child that ends up on the wrong path is a huge cost to society, and when it works out, a great blessing if we can just pull everybody back and get them moving in the right direction. There's really nothing in government that's going to be more important.
Mayor Briley?
Well, I don't think it's ever too late to intervene in the life of a child, and I think we all up here admire and love Judge Sheila Calloway and everything she is doing for the children in our city. And so that's why I've been working with her to make sure that she gets the resources she needs. A young person's first encounter with the juvenile justice system is normally not something serious. It's normally skipping school. And that's generally a sign of something bad going on in the family or in the home or with the child. And so Judge Calloway needs more resources. She needs a different facility to be able to better assess those young people. And I'm committed to making sure she gets it. We also need to change the way we're policing and get more focused on neighborhood policing because we know, we've seen at Casey, it actually does a lot of difference in terms of reducing crime, especially juvenile crime. Finally, today I was visiting with young people in the Opportunity Now program, a program I run, because we know that getting a young person, 14 to 24, their first paid job has great impact on their long-term success. So we got to get jobs for young people too. That's what Opportunity Now is all about.
Thank you, Mayor Briley.
Well, candidate, speaking of policing, Metro Police Chief Steve Anderson has faced criticism in recent years with the African-American community in particular for his handling of 2 high-profile officer-involved shootings. Do you support Chief Anderson, and if elected, would you keep him in his current position? Mayor Briley.
Policing is obviously an area of concern across the country, and we are making changes across the country in terms of how we're policing. And we're well along the way in terms of getting body cams deployed across the city. We've selected a contractor, and they're being deployed even now as we speak. They're out there. We are working to get them deployed. As I said before, moving towards more of a neighborhood policing is the way we ought to go. We actually have seen the number of car stops, drop pretty radically by almost 50% between 2012 and 2017, moving away from that stop-intensive way of policing. I don't agree with 100% of everything Chief Anderson has done, but I support him.
Representative Clemens.
973 days have passed since the Driving While Black study was released, providing clear data that action should have been taken since that time. Unfortunately, since that time, we've had a failure of leadership in Metro government. We have not seen a culture change in our police department, and we have not seen any implementation of body cameras. Unlike Mayor Briley and Councilman Cooper, I supported the Community Oversight Board from the beginning. Unlike Mayor Briley, no one is guaranteed a job in my administration. Upon taking office as your mayor, I will sit down and evaluate and discuss the issues facing Nashville and do what is necessary to restore the trust between our community and the police department. Because their job is to protect and serve, but the community needs to feel protected and served.
Dr. Swain.
As mayor, public safety would be my number one priority. Over the past few weeks, I've traveled around to the 8 precincts, police precincts, visiting their roll calls where the officers change shifts, talking with officers. And one of the things, and there are 3 shifts, one of the things I've learned is that there's poor morale, there are severe shortages of law enforcement officers, and there's a need for new leadership. And so I would not only ask for Chief Anderson's resignation, but I would set up a committee that had representation from the police department, from the community. I would sit on it. One of my degrees is in criminal justice, and we would select a new police chief. I think we can do better, and so it's not just about what happened with the shootings and Chief Anderson. He has lost the respect of many of his men, and he's been chief long enough, and we need change.
Councilman Cooper.
Well, this discussion is about who should be mayor, not about who should be police chief. It's about who's going to appoint this chief and the next chief and how you're going to create a police force that is as diverse as the community. Now, the police force, let's just say it's in trouble. A lot of people have left. There's been up to 130 vacancies, almost 10% of the force. It's $75,000 to retrain a replacement for that. And in the meantime, from 2014 to 2018, the murder rate doubled in Nashville. So it is a matter that we have to make priority number one as public safety. We want to go to all these other goals, but you have to have safety first from that. And we are going to have a new era in our relationship between the community and police. Part of that is losing quotas and getting back to community policing and having a force that is integrated beautifully within the community.
Last week, Mayor Briley announced he wants to temporarily ban scooters in Nashville. Do you support the ban, and under what conditions would you allow scooters to return? Let's start with Dr. Swain.
I do support the ban, and unless they can show us that they can protect the safety of the riders and the public, the ban should remain permanent.
And Councilman Cooper.
Well, scooters, I think, a little bit like cherry trees, are a little bit of a symbol for Nashville that has the tourist economy kind of taken over in sort of an unregulated way because our regulation has been inconsistent. And in order to have scooters, you do have to provide safe access for them. So that's going to be protected bikeways. Are we willing to commit to that level of infrastructure in order to have the scooter? Until we are, we have to be very careful. We have to err on more regulation rather than less. And how are you going to have scooters downtown if we have sold the parking space right of way in downtown, which seems like it's going to be completely vital if you're going to have any other transit multimodal options going forward. But as for scooters right now, they're too unsafe. The emergency room doctors would all agree we can't go forward the way it is now.
Mayor Briley.
Perhaps someone in your family doesn't drive anymore and uses the sidewalk for their only means of transportation, or uses a wheelchair and needs to get around downtown. I think you would agree with me that the scooters are completely and totally unacceptable for them. And that's the facts right now. There are people who use wheelchairs downtown, and their right-of-way, their ability to get to their jobs is blocked. And so that's why I called on the council to rescind their previous plan, the failed experiment of scooters, and pull them off the streets. I think it's important for us to acknowledge that people use our sidewalks for things more than just going to a bar. It's not what they're only used for. Now, in the future, if they can prove that they're safe, and if we can feel confident that no one else is going to die after drinking downtown, then I think we could invite them back.
Thank you. Representative Clemens.
Thank you. Unfortunately, this appears to be about the fourth position the mayor has taken on this issue in about 4 weeks. Now, he's right. This is a public safety issue that affects everyone, not just the users of scooters, but those who rely on our sidewalks and our roadways. If we're going to truly ever have scooters, and they're ever truly going to be a last mile option, then we first have to invest in the appropriate infrastructure for them to be a last mile option. Now, I support stronger enforcement of the regulations, and personally, I don't love scooters, and I don't mind scooters being taken off the streets. But my question is, why has it taken 1.5 years to take necessary action on a public safety issue?
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to move to what we call the lightning round, and you've all been doing great on your time and your answers. We appreciate it, but we're going to reduce to 30 seconds for your response on this, next couple of questions. Next year will be the 10th anniversary of the flood. Downtown is obviously much bigger and much more developed than it was a decade ago. With that in mind, do you support a downtown flood wall? Councilman Cooper.
Well, no, I have not supported this flood wall, and because we need maybe more than one flood wall. The whole county flooded when it flooded, not just one neighborhood. And we have to demonstrate a comprehensive approach to protecting us against floods. Now, this particular flood wall, I worry, was kind of the invention of a flood wall panel sales force, and not necessarily what we should be enacting to protect this downtown, any other downtown, or any other neighborhood.
Mayor Briley?
Well, let's start with the facts. Climate change is real, and we are starting to see the effects of that more and more in Nashville and Middle Tennessee. And in February, we came very close to having the Wolf Creek Dam have so much water that we had up to 14 feet of additional water downtown. Just think of the difference between those two, between 2010 and 2019. So I do support a flood protection system downtown. I think the fundamental question now is how is it get paid for? Because I think there are serious questions about that.
Representative Clemens.
Well, 2010 was certainly a tragedy, and we all have to recognize the impact that had on our local economy. And again, we are going to see more rainfall and more flooding. But if we're going to invest in a downtown flood wall, then the downtown businesses that will benefit from it should put some skin in the game and help pay for it. But before we even get to that point, we need to look at a workable model to see what impact diversion of waters from downtown will have on communities downstream, like the Nations and Bellevue and other parts of our city that will also flood.
At the present time, I would not be supportive of it, but I would be willing to study the issue. And I'd like to use the last part of my time to say that Representative Clemens and Councilmember Cooper, they borrowed part of my short-term and long-term plan for transit and transportation. And so I would urge people to go to my website and see my plan. It's such a great plan that other people are borrowing it.
Thank you.
This is another lightning round question. When you have friends or family coming to town, what is the one thing you tell them they must do well in town? Representative Clemens.
Well, I advise all my friends coming to town to do the Holy Trinity of Nashville: music, arts, and parks. From music Station Inn and Exit Inn. For arts, the Fisk University Exhibition Hall and Museums and the Frist, as well as Oz Arts. And for parks, Radnor Lake and Centennial Park are some of my favorites.
Dr. Swain?
It depends on who the guests are. I always take young people to the zoo. We go to Radnor Lake, one of my favorite places. We go, to the Science Center, and we go to museums if that's what the person wants. And so I love being in Nashville and the fact that we have so many places where people can go. So this is a great city, and it can be even better.
Councilman Cooper?
Well, our park system, when people come and visit me, if we can, we go biking. And we go to that spot where the Cumberland River meets the Stones River, which I really think is the most beautiful single spot in any county. And people are just beyond impressed that it exists so close to downtown Nashville. And it's accessible by bikes, by walking, by greenways.
Mayor Brelli?
So I don't know why you wouldn't go to Tootsie's. I mean, I think you'd probably go to Tootsie's. I think you'd go to the Hermitage, because it is sort of unique in our city, very unique, in fact. I would say go to the Parthenon, because it is one of our preeminent parks here in Nashville. And then I look forward to the day, not very long from now, when I can tell them to go to the National Museum of African American Music at the corner of 5th and Broad, because that's going to be an important addition to the cultural landscape here in Nashville.
Thank you.
All right, candidates, we're getting to our closing statements now. You each will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. And since you've done so well on time, we won't mind if you go over a few seconds. We won't call you out. But we will begin with Councilman Cooper.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. So I'll do the math, and I'll tell you the truth. As I have on the council these last 4 years, this is the moment to rebalance our city's priorities. And we can find the solutions, the real solutions, to pay for the costs of growth. And you have to do this by focusing on you and on neighborhoods. Now, in the last 4 years, I've been on the council. It's a part-time job. I've been a business person who wandered onto the council, and I've discovered that Metro's tactics really are to employ neglect of communities, or cookie jar approach. And we have to end favoritism to favorites and get beyond that as a city. Now, there's some real changes that need to happen. Tourism needs to carry its own costs and to pay a dividend back to the city. That's why we went in for growth. We need that dividend returned. On transportation, we need a plan right now. We should not wait until 2025. We've done the studies, we've done the homework. We need a plan that's financially sound and delivers benefits to as many people as possible. This is the kind of investment that a great city makes, and a great city gets on with it. In affordable housing, we need a real plan that brings benefits and affordability as much as possible for any city in the country to address that problem. And then for education. For education, it is financially important to begin to address the underfunding of education. To do that, to get more revenue from more sources into the city, to get half of the city's new revenues into education, to get half of the school board spending to be on teacher pay, because teachers are the developers that we need to support. And our children need to be able to take advantage of the opportunities of this great new city. We get our finances right, our city's future is unlimited, but we don't need to sell parkland, we don't need to be privatizing parking, we need to protect what is unique. If you do this, we'll have an unlimited future. Now, this has been a wonderful job interview, and I want to ask for your support and vote, and I'm ready to be the right mayor for Nashville right now.
Thank you. Representative Clements.
Well, thank you for having us tonight and hosting this thoughtful discussion about the issues. I think we can all agree that we have several different positions on key issues facing our city. Right now, our city is facing tremendous challenges. As an honor of serving in the state legislature, I have had the privilege of working on the biggest challenges facing Nashville families. Right now, Nashville's not short on challenges. What we're lacking is leadership and a vision to move our city forward in an equitable manner. The challenges facing Nashville include an affordable housing crisis. We must increase the net housing stock for families across this city. We must also realize that housing will never be affordable for too many Nashville families. So we need to address the root causes of affordability and focus in on increasing wages, addressing poverty and educational opportunities. Public transportation and water infrastructure are significant issues facing our city as well. We're a 21st century city sitting on top of early 20th century infrastructure. We cannot afford to wait any longer to build a stronger foundation, not only for our city, but for our neighborhoods and our residents, because that is key to improving the quality of life across this city. And those investments don't just need to be limited to downtown. They need to be expanded out into the entire community, and that requires fiscal responsibility, and it may require some tough decisions. And finally, public education. There is no greater priority in our city than public education. That's why it's my top priority as your candidate for mayor. I am fully responsible and committed to making the tough decisions necessary to fully fund our pays, to fully fund our schools, and pay our teachers what they truly deserve, and make sure they have the resources they need to do their job. Because at the end of the day, we need to be working to ensure that every child across this entire city has an equal opportunity to succeed. My campaign is based on 3 core values that I learned growing up on the farm: equity, opportunity, and justice. I can commit to you as your mayor, I will do everything I can to ensure equity, create opportunity, and demand justice for all. And I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Briley.
Thank you.
Quiet, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I love this city. It's my hometown. And I was given the great privilege, the honor of being asked to step in a moment of disarray, of unprecedented change in our community. And I believe I have kept us moving forward, steadily forward, during the last 15 months. I believe that my hard work and my love of the city has really helped us heal from that moment. But I know, as I talk to people, I've spent a lot of time talking to folks. I'm in a unique position in this community to talk to both the businesses that want to come here and the families sending their kids to schools and the teachers. I know that people are hurting and that the progress we're making is not uniformly shared. I want you to know that. I want you to know that I understand that. That's why I've spent the last year trying to work on the things that will change the direction of the city, working on affordable housing, protecting open space, recruiting high-paying jobs to our community, starting a new program for our Nashville State Community College so more people can earn more money, because that is critical to success in our community. If you give me the chance to be the mayor for the next 4 years, which I'm asking you to do tonight, I will work as hard for Nashville as I have ever worked, and I will make sure that as we move forward, we don't just get bigger, we get stronger. That's what Nashville is all about. If we stick together as a community and don't divide, we will be stronger. We will have more folks coming out of Nashville State Community College ready to earn a third or 40% more. We'll have more salutatorians and valedictorians going to Ivy Leagues. We'll have more affordable housing. We'll have more open space. Please help me do that. I'm asking for your vote. Early voting starts July 12th, and the election is August 1st. Thank you very much for listening to me tonight.
Thank you. And Dr. Swain.
We've all heard the expression, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. The candidates on stage with me are in office now. They have power, they have authority. If they really wanted to address these problems, they could have done more already. That is the problem. And so for this election, you need to make a decision. Are you going to continue with these politicians who are making election year promises, or are you going to try something new? I'm asking you to try something new. I am an outsider in the sense I've never wanted to run for office. I was drafted to run for office by people who wanted change. My background is 28 years in political science and law. I stand for integrity. I stand for transparency. I stand for efficiency. I will run this city like a business, and I will have in place a CEO and a CFO, top-notch people, the best and the brightest. I don't care race, gender, religion, or political party. We working together can move this city forward. And so I'm asking you to support me. I need your support. I'm not a part of a political dynasty like these candidates here. I'm not part of a political dynasty. I can't self-finance my campaign. It's a grassroots campaign. If you want change, then invest in the candidate who will deliver what she promises. I'm willing to give Nashville the next 4 years of my life. Join me. Let's make Nashville the great city for all of us.
Thank you. All the candidates tonight, we appreciate it. A reminder, early voting is July 12th. Election Day is the 1st. Have a great night, everybody. Good night.